Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. So another PMQs, another opportunity for the Tories to get themselves battered with another roasting of Nigel Farage into the bargain. With Starmer still out of the country with the NATO meeting, Angela Rayner was up against Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride. Now, I have to say, Stride was way better than Phil last week. Phil was smarmy, wholly unlikable. Stride did as well as anyone could, I feel. But he was doomed from the start. And despite Badenoch not being there, she still ended up being the butt of Labour's jokes.
The Leader of the Opposition said she was going to get better week on week. She already has in the last 2 weeks by not turning up.
But first, for daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel, stay notified. So, although the Conservatives are the official party of opposition, the real danger is Reform UK. And a Labour backbencher duly obliged, did it quite well actually, in teeing Rayner up in order to do just that. After all, Labour couldn't count on Reform UK publicising their deeply unpopular policies, in this case their latest attack on ordinary working people.
The member for Clacton put a singular burning injustice first. The plight of overseas billionaires paying too much tax. Does the Deputy Prime Minister agree with his priority, or with me, that the Reform UK doing sweetheart deals with the super rich is a betrayal of British working people?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I was asked about the member for Clacton's mathematics the other week, and my honourable friend is absolutely right. The mask has slipped again this week. The honourable member for Clacton demands billions more in unfunded tax cuts for the very richest, while he marches through the lobbies in the House of Commons to vote against sick pay for the lowest earners. We know who pay for reform tax breaks, Mr. Speaker, for overseas billionaires, tax hikes on working people and patients being charged to see their doctor. Labour won't let that happen.
But although Labour find it much more valuable to highlight Reform UK's unsuitability for office, it is the Tories who get to ask 6 questions at PMQs, which allows a structure to their attacks not afforded to other opposition parties. Interestingly, both the Lib Dems and Tories pressed Labour on the disability cuts that I was talking about again earlier. Let's just compare their approach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it is a pleasure to stand opposite the Right Honourable Lady. Despite what many may think, we have a great deal in common, not least that we both viscerally disagree with the Chancellor's tax policies. And it is great to see the Right Honourable Lady standing in temporarily for the Prime Minister for the 2nd week running. Although I know there are many sitting behind her who wish this was a permanent arrangement. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, you will find many of their names amongst the 122 who've signed up to oppose the government's welfare bill. They say that the bill is dangerously rushed and ill thought through. So can the Right Honourable Lady explain why she thinks that she is right and 122 of her own colleagues are wrong?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And may I start by associating myself and my party with the remarks of the Deputy Prime Minister in calling for de-escalation in the Middle East, for the release of hostages and for the urgent aid to get into Gaza. Yeah. We Liberal Democrats are opposed to the government's cuts to personal independence payments and carers' allowance. And with a growing rebellion on the government's own benches, it seems as though the government may be forced to push these cuts through with the support of the official opposition. The Deputy Prime Minister knows that some of those affected are still waiting for justice after the carers' allowance scandal saw thousands of innocent carers hounded for repayments. So can the Deputy Prime Minister give a cast-iron guarantee that if these cuts are pursued, that at the very least, not a single person will lose a penny until the carers' allowance scandal review has been completed and the recommendations implemented?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Now, which one would have made the better official party of opposition? This is why I desperately wanted people to get the Lib Dems into 2nd place at the last election. They would have had the 6 questions at PMQs. They would be the ones featuring on every current affairs programme. They'd be a far more effective opposition, not only because they would ask more relevant questions, but Labour would need to answer them properly. Like when the Tories ask the questions, it's really easy for Labour to fire back. Doesn't matter whether it's Starmer or Rayner, it's actually easy.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, first of all, Mr Speaker, it's nice to face the latest wannabe. Dispatch box.
Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I don't know if he sort of listened to what I said because I was reading off the script, but what I can tell him, and I don't need the script. Well, if ever we needed a reminder of the party opposite having no shames, it's their demands for this bill, Mr Speaker. He demands a programme to help people into work, exactly what this bill does. After he left 1 in 8 young people out of the economy, he demands no new taxes from the party that raised taxes to record levels, and he demands further welfare savings, Mr Speaker, from the man who was in charge as the welfare bill absolutely belittled. They say cut welfare bill, they failed. They say cut people in work, they failed. They say no tax increases, they failed.
Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, this is a bit rich. Unbelievable. Inflation above 11%. The biggest tax rises by their party. I take no lectures. And on this issue in particular, Mr Speaker, they can't make their minds up. First they said our reforms were taking too long, then they say they were rushed, then their front bench said our measures were too tough, and now they say they need to be tougher. No plan, no idea. I wonder why their party was left in such a mess.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Again, Mr Speaker, I think they've got an absolute nerve when council tax rose every single year under their government. In fact, Mr Speaker, I had to turn down the Tories on the LJ who wanted me to take away the precept to make sure that they could raise taxes above the 5%. We've kept it there, Mr Speaker, while delivering money for local government where they had austerity, put taxes up and ruined the British economy.
The Tories can try to press Labour on the disability cuts on the basis that it's splitting the party, but everyone can see it's a weak attack from Stride because the Tories aren't really opposed to the cuts. Indeed, his party committed to 3 times the value of cuts in their last budget. Another thing which shouldn't be lost on people, the Tories' main grievance is that Labour aren't cutting enough. The Tories literally slated 3 times the welfare cuts, not in their manifesto. It was in their budget. The budget which they passed before the election, which Labour had to cancel last autumn. Now, I'm not saying those who are going to be affected by the cuts going through should be grateful or anything, but it was going to be way worse. And it will be way worse if they do fall at the next election. But Stride, he did his best. He did the best you could expect him to with the material he had.
Mel Stride. Well, Mr Speaker, when you cut out the blather, isn't the reality that this Labour government has condemned us to higher taxes, more debt, fewer jobs, more pain for businesses right up and down our country? Borrowing up, unemployment up, inflation up. Yet the Right Honourable Lady tells us the government's plan is working. It's not just me who isn't convinced, Mr Speaker. The people behind her are not convinced either. And neither are the public. In fact, Mr Speaker, I'm not even sure if the Right Honourable Lady herself is convinced. So can I ask her, isn't she just a little embarrassed to be defending policies she doesn't even agree with herself?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I'm embarrassed every week that somebody comes here from their opposition who doesn't apologise for the mess they left this country in. There was one party that crashed the economy and left families paying the price. We're putting working people first, Mr Speaker. I'm proud. We've got a huge boost to the minimum wage, the biggest uplift to affordable housing in a generation, and expanding free school meals to 500,000 children. The Tories' choice, billions of pounds in unfunded tax cuts for the very wealthiest. We know where that gets us. It's the same old Tory failed approach. They haven't listened and they haven't learned a thing.
I'm not saying he would make a decent Tory leader. Their record is shot to pieces. There is no way of defending it. Stride did as well as could be expected. His lines were actually good if they weren't being delivered by someone with his party's record. In other words, he performed well, but it was like trying to win a motor race with a clapped out old banger. Doesn't matter how good a driver he is. he hasn't got the engine. But he was better. He wasn't condescending like Philp last week. He was actually quite personable, seemed confident. But the Tories' only chance right now is to get a leader who can distract from their record. They need massive charisma. This is the sort of time when they could actually do with an affable bullshitter like Boris Johnson to distract from that record. They picked him at the wrong time. They should have saved him for now. A rodeo clown as leader may actually just work. But Johnson's probably blown his credibility too badly now. There's no easy way for him to come back to Parliament. And the Tories don't seem to have anyone else like it. So we're stuck in a cycle of the Tories trying to criticise Labour policies where even when they make a good point, Labour will just fire back with, mate, do you see the mess you left?
The Right Honourable Lady appears to be enjoying spending yet another week practising to be Prime Minister. Yeah. Maybe she can give us her view on who she would get rid of in the up-and-coming reshuffle.
Mr. Speaker, maybe he wants to go next week because it's been quite the carousel, and the leader of the opposition said she was going to get better week on week. She already has in the last 2 weeks by not turning up.
But there we are. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And for more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.